The P-47 Thunderbolt was a highly effective and versatile piston engine fighter in World War II, not a jet. It was renowned for its ruggedness, firepower and performance, especially in the ground attack role and at high altitudes. The P-47 was powered by the massive Pratt & Whitney R2800 double wasp, an 18-cylinder air-cooled radial engine, combined with an advanced turbo supercharger, which gave it excellent high-altitude capabilities. Its turbo supercharger system allowed it to perform exceptionally well above 30,000 feet, where it was often superior to its German counterparts. And in air-to-air combat, P-47 pilots achieved an impressive aerial kill ratio of 4.6 to 1. Notable aces such as Francis Gaby Gabreski scored all of their victories in a Thunderbolt. When it comes to ground attack, the P-47's greatest contribution was arguably as a fighter bomber. Its robust design meant it could absorb significant battle damage and still return to base, making it ideal for low-level attacks. It carried a formidable armament of 8.50 caliber machine guns and could be equipped with up to 2,500 pounds of bombs or rockets. From D-Day until the end of the war in Europe, P-47 pilots claimed the destruction of vast numbers of enemy ground targets, including 86,000 railroad cars, 9,000 locomotives, 6,000 armored vehicles, and 68,000 trucks. So, let's discuss about what really set the P-47 apart. Durability was its trademark, nicknamed the Jug, which is short for Juggernaut. This aircraft earned a reputation for withstanding heavy enemy fire, and that was a quality pilots truly valued. And then there's speed and dive. While some other fighters from that era could outclimb and outturn it at low altitudes, the P-47 stood out as one of the fastest propeller-driven fighters at high altitudes. Plus, it was an exceptional diver, which meant pilots could escape from trouble pretty much at will. When it comes to numbers, the P-47 really made its mark. Over 15,600 units were built, making it the most produced American fighter of the entire war. The P-47 Thunderbolt was, without a doubt, a critical and effective workhorse for the USAAF. It excelled in air-to-air combat at high altitudes and, just as impressively, served as a devastating ground attack platform. The P-47 was noted for its firepower. Its primary armament was 8.50 caliber machine guns, and it could carry 5-inch rockets or a bomb load of 2,500 pounds, which is about 1,100 kilograms. When fully loaded, the aircraft weighed up to 8 tons, making it one of the heaviest fighters of the war. It was also really remarkable for its ability to remain airworthy, even after sustaining battle damage. The P-47 was designed around the powerful Pratt & Whitney R2800 double wasp 18-cylinder radial engine, which also powered the US Navy and US Marine Corps Grumman F-6F Hellcat and Vought F-4U Corsair. An advanced turbo supercharger ensured the aircraft's eventual dominance at high altitudes, while also influencing its size and design. The armored cockpit was relatively roomy and comfortable, and the sliding bubble canopy introduced on the D variant offered good visibility. The P-47 also served with the air forces of France, the United Kingdom and the Soviet Union, as well as with allied Mexican and Brazilian squadrons. It is, interestingly, the namesake of a later US ground attack aircraft, the Fairchild Republic A-10 Thunderbolt II. The initial response to the P-47 focused on its impressive dive speed and high-altitude performance. But analysts did criticize its turning ability and its rate of climb, especially at low to medium altitudes. The turbo supercharger in the P-47 gave the power plant its maximum power at 27,000 feet, and in the thin air above 30,000 feet, the Thunderbolt actually stayed fast and pretty nimble compared to other aircraft. The P-47 first saw action with the 4th Fighter Group, whose pilots were mainly drawn from the 3 British Eagle squadrons. These were chaps who had previously flown the British Spitfire Mark V, which was a much smaller and more slender aircraft. At first, they looked at their new fighter with quite a bit of misgiving. It was just massive. The British pilots even joked that a Thunderbolt pilot could defend himself from a Luftwaffe fighter simply by running around and hiding inside the fuselage. Optimized for high-altitude work, the Thunderbolt had 5 feet, or about 1.5 meters, more wingspan, a quarter more wing area, about 4 times the fuselage volume, and nearly twice the weight of a Spitfire 5. One Thunderbolt pilot, a bit tongue-in-cheek, compared it to flying a bathtub around the sky. When his unit, the 4th Fighter Group, was equipped with Thunderbolts, Ace Don Blakesley famously said, referring to the P-47's much-talked-about ability to dive on its prey, "It ought to be able to dive. It certainly can't climb." Now, Blakesley's early model P-47C hadn't even been fitted with the new paddle blade propeller. The 4th Fighter Group's commander hated the P-47, and his prejudices really filtered down to the group's pilots. In fact, the 4th ended up with the fewest kills of any of the first 3 P-47 squadrons in Europe. The P-47's initial success in combat was primarily down to tactics. Pilots made the most of its excellent roll rate, using rolls and energy-saving dive and zoom climbs from high altitude to outmaneuver German fighters. But both the Bf-109 and FW-190 could, just like the Spitfire, outturn and outclimb those early model P-47s at low to medium altitudes, since the early P-47s had rather mediocre climb performance due to the lack of paddle blade propellers. The arrival of the new Curtiss paddle blade propeller in early 1944 really changed things, significantly increasing climb rate at lower altitudes. This came as quite a surprise to German pilots, who had been using steep climbs to evade pursuit by the P-47. Some P-47 pilots even claimed to have broken the sound barrier in steep dives, but later research revealed that, because of the pressure buildup inside the pitot tube at high speeds, airspeed readings became unpredictably exaggerated. As P-47s were able to outdive enemy fighter planes, German pilots gradually learned to avoid diving away. Other positive attributes included the P-47's ruggedness. Its radial piston engine had a high tolerance for damage compared to liquid-cooled engines, and its large size meant it could sustain a large amount of damage and still get its pilot back to base. With 8 12.7mm machine guns, the P-47 carried more firepower than other single-engined American fighters. P-47 pilots claimed 20 Luftwaffe Messerschmitt, Mi-262 jet fighters and 4 Arado R-234 jet bombers in aerial combat. The P-47 proved to be a formidable fighter bomber due to its good armament-heavy bomb load and ability to survive enemy fire. The P-47's survivability was due in part to its radial piston engine, which, unlike comparable liquid-cooled engines, had a high tolerance for damage. The Thunderbolt's 8 12.7mm machine guns were quite capable against lightly armored targets, although less so than the cannon-armed aircraft of the day. In a ground attack role, the armor-piercing incendiary and armor-piercing incendiary tracer ammunition proved useful in penetrating thin-skinned and lightly armored German vehicles and causing their fuel tanks to explode, as well as occasionally damaging some types of enemy armored fighting vehicles. P-47 pilots frequently carried 2 500-pound bombs, using skip bombing techniques for difficult targets. Skipping bombs into railroad tunnels to destroy hidden enemy trains was actually a favorite tactic. The adoption of the triple-tube M10 rocket launcher with M8 high-explosive 110mm rockets, each with an explosive force similar to a 105mm artillery shell, much like the RAF's Hawker Typhoon gained when first fitted with its own 2 quartets of underwing RP-3 rockets for the same purposes, significantly increased the P-47's ground attack capability. And late in the war, the P-47 was retrofitted with more powerful 130mm HVAR rockets.